Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Generation Elevation. Today, I am joined with a very special guest, all the way from Australia. So we're in the virtual world today. And this beautiful woman, she is an integrated health and quantum wellness advocate. What does that even mean? Basically, it's all about looking at wellness from within. So as you guys know, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, I have such a holistic approach to health. We're talking spirituality, we're talking fitness, we're talking nutrition, we're talking meditation, breath work, mindset. So obviously when I heard about this beautiful lady, I was like, I must get her on my show because her approach is all about looking at wellness from within and using a modality that regards frequency medicine. Now, we'll delve into what specifically that is in this episode. Before I do introduce my guest, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you do love what we have to say, make sure you go check her page out. We'll put it in the show notes. And also to screenshot this and put it on your social media story. The more people that reach this information, the better we can help this world. So with that said, I want to introduce to you Debbie Jane Harris. Hello, Debbie. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here.
It's a pleasure to absolutely have you. And it's so cool that we can be connected like this. Like I'm in London, you're in Australia, totally different time zones. And yeah, to be here right now, it's quite special.
Absolutely.
Now, guys, we were talking before we press record and I was like, wow, this is going to be a really powerful episode. And I think there's going to be a lot of key topics that we're going to talk about here. But Debbie, I'm really curious, like integrative health and quantum wellness advocate. So some of the listeners might be like, that sounds really cool, but what is that? And I'd love to hear your definition on what that is and then go into your story of how you embodied and become that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, integrative health has been a real passion of mine, having been a nurse for 30 years prior to embarking on what I do now. It became very aware to me over all of those years that there were so many different elements and components to wellness, health and well-being. And so to be able to integrative health is bringing in all of the different pieces, realizing that everything is connected and that we can't just focus on one thing without another because we need balance all around. So integrative health, and then the quantum piece is really all about frequency and energy. And that has been something that has really excited me, especially over the last couple of years, as I've seen significant changes in people's health and well-being with that modality. And so it's something that I really am super passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you delve deeper into what is the quantum? So for those that are listening that have no idea what quantum means or is, would you be able to share a little bit of your insights into this for us?
Okay. It's a really big topic, but we'll condense it down as much as we can into understanding that everything has a frequency. Our cells in our body, the cups that we drink from, every single thing has a frequency. And so when we start to tap into that and we understand how the external world impacts the internal world and how important it is to maintain homeostasis and continue to keep that balance so that our frequencies are all balanced, then our bodies can heal themselves. And how we do that to tap into that quantum realm is really through like scalar waves and Rife technology. It's like looking at the quantum entanglement. These frequencies travel faster than light. it's quite it's a whole other level of sometimes really hard to get your 3D brain around how it all works. But when you start to see how the frequencies in our body all work together, the resonant, like for instance, how I like to introduce it to people who've never, so that they can sort of have an understanding, is like when you go, say, for instance, for an ultrasound or an X-ray or a CT scan or something. So they need to dial up the resonance of that particular organ to be able to see through your skin and take a photo of it. That's what it's measuring, and that's actually what it's taking a picture of, is actually the resonance, the frequency of that particular thing. And so when we start to look at frequency medicine, we realize that we can obtain imaging, but we can also obtain and send frequency to those things to create balance and more of a healing environment. So that's the quantum. That's the beautiful world of the quantum.
Wow. And can you please elaborate, like when you say frequency medicine and like sending people frequencies, the listeners that are like, what does that mean? Like, what does that specifically look like?
Okay, so the therapy that I use is called bioresonance. And so for many years, obviously being a nurse, I've been looking at data and reports and results and things to, for blood tests and X-rays and CT scans and all that. My background was intensive care and emergency. So for many years, I looked at that. And then when I transitioned into this work that I currently do, I now get to see that actually on a much bigger scale. So when we're looking at biores and we're looking at sending frequencies, we're sending them across the quantum. We create a profile of a person, and that's their name and email address and date of birth and height and weight. So we're getting like your BMI, and that's the profile. And then we get a 10-second recording of your voice, which is using like lie detector technology. And no two voices are the same. We all have different octaves in our voices that the frequencies are being measured. Every frequency in the notes in our voice equates also to an emotional state. And this is where we start to understand the impact of our emotional being on our body. We can be, trying to achieve results in our life in lots of different ways. And often the blocks that we're experiencing are actually coming from this emotional being, things that are trapped in our body that we don't even know are there in the conscious mind. But when we're looking at it from a frequency level in a quantum realm, we can actually start to identify what those things are, how they're impacting our body, and then send frequencies to that thing to help release it and bring back homeostasis again. So it's a full circle approach.
Wow, it's so powerful. And guys, I was lucky enough to have Debbie facilitate this frequency medicine for myself after I got back from Croatia. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But Debbie, I really wanted to go into your background, and obviously going from, like you said, a quite intensive care space in the nursing industry, and then to now what you do being very holistic and very left field of Western medicine. What was that experience like for you? Like, tell me a little bit about like how you started in that industry and then had that moment where you needed to shift.
Okay. Well, that has been it's actually been a really beautiful journey, and I can actually thank COVID for that, for a lot of that toward the end. So, having worked in the medical model for all these years, I'm also a mum to two sons who are 21 and 26. And if I look back on my life, I actually never really used to practice the medical model outside of my job, which is really interesting. So when I look back now and I realize, and throughout my life, I've actually always really resonated with more of a holistic approach to wellness. Yeah. I think subconsciously I could see that the model in the hospital setting has its place, obviously, but there's a lot of things that are going on in there that are not aware. It's very symptom management. It's a symptom management model.
Yeah, I see.
And obviously...
sorry, I was just going to say, like, when a tree is dying, like I really see more so Western medicine is treating the leaves of the tree and like picking them off and hoping that they'll grow back again, when really it's the roots of the tree that is their issue, and the soil that it's being planted in. Yeah.
100%. And by the time we're experiencing symptoms, we're way down the path of dis-ease in our body. So we really need to get to so my focus was I would always be asking the questions, and I was often told off in my career. I actually was an associate nurse manager of an emergency department, and like I really, succeeded in my career, but I had so many questions around, health and wellness and the way people were, people's lifestyles and a lot of other things that were not being addressed, nutrition, exercise, movement, water, like all of the things. Like there was really no conversations about any of these topics in the hospital setting, interestingly enough. It was very much pharmacologically driven. So as we went through this whole, COVID fiasco, I was witnessing catastrophic situations going on in the hospital. And really intuitively, I'm very intuitively led. I'm very tapped into spirit and my own truth. I've learned along the way in my life journey to never ignore those signs, because it's chaos in your life if you do. So it may be hard in the moment to, lead with that feeling, but you can almost guarantee that it will always work out if you do, because you've got to stay true to your path and true to your values. And so obviously with everything going on and the mandated vaccinations, I opted out of that. I really intuitively just felt it was not for me. 100% it was a no. And so with that, I had to let go of my 30-year nursing career and my job, my livelihood and everything. Fortunately, for about 3 or 4 years prior to that, I had started to change direction. I was pivoting and going down the integrative health path. So I'd already done my diploma, which was awesome. An NLP, did my master's in that, and I've done Reiki, and I'd started to really dabble in all these different modalities and some hypnosis and things. And I was like, okay, this is my moment, although it feels really scary because I am literally having to step fully into, like, I lost my whole livelihood in that moment. But I trusted and surrendered into what was next for me, knowing that because I'd stayed true to my values and true to myself, that, and true to my life's purpose, that it was all going to work out. Next minute, I get my beautiful friend who's a kinesiologist message me, and she said, babe, you need one of these devices, this bioresonance therapy. It'll just be amazing. And I was like, oh, tell me more about it. And that's where my journey started with the bioresonance. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is the most powerful tool that I've ever witnessed outside of the hospital setting. The accuracy, that just from an education perspective, it just tells you so much about your body, so much about your emotions, your chakras, your meridians. Like, it really just opened up this whole other world. And it really sent me down the path of like learning more about frequency. I've always been very much about law of attraction and what we, have the power of our thoughts and understanding language and how our words are like spelling. That's why they call them spelling words, because our words can cast spells. I've always been very aware of all of those things. But the more that I started to really embody this whole frequency medicine journey, I really started to see the power and feel the power in myself. Like, I would literally speak something out and then it would happen. I'd have an idea and I'd speak it out, and the next minute, like a few weeks ago, I even said, oh, it would be just so beautiful if more nurses were just really open to this. They know they're out of alignment with that other model, and they're looking for something else, and I'm like, it would be just so beautiful if more nurses came on board and I can show them this beautiful tool. And then within that week, I had 2 nurses approach me, and now they're on board and they're actually starting their own businesses with this, integrating this tool and things. Wow. And so I just started to really understand fully it was an embodiment. So rather than it just be a knowing, I really started to embody the whole frequency, be so diligent with listening to my harmonics, with the voice recording that we do, creates balancing harmonics that are embedded with frequencies that are specifically for you. And so I listen to my morning and night religiously, and I can feel the shifts at a cellular level. I'm so in tune now with the power of frequency and energy. I feel it really strongly too in amongst, it's interesting. I've got a client that I work with closely. She's been having some relationship issues, for instance. And I said to her, just be mindful that a lot of the time, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you've got blocks. It's not that you've got all these things going on. It's really that, it's like a radio station. Your frequency is off from that person. It's really that simple. We try so hard to figure ourselves out, and I think I've got this wrong with me and that I need to work on this, I need to work on that. I just truly believe that if we continue to work on our frequency, if we continue to work on our energetic being, we continue to be grounded deep into the earth, but also really, connected to, spirit, God, or whatever it is that you identify with, you're really getting that full, I've actually got goosebumps, you're really getting the full, that, holistic and total healing. And we get to actually experience that ourselves, and sometimes we need some guidance with that. And there are people like yourself who are helping people with that process. The more people start to, this great awakening that we hear these words, being tossed around with people being awake, and it's the awakening. But, it's really, we're all ascending because we're all evolving as human beings on this planet. We're just all at different stages, and some of us get to go first. And so then we get to help the others as they start to move on. It's really that simple. So now, having journeyed through 30 years of the allopathic model and fallen out of alignment with that, and realizing the power of frequency. And, Einstein said the future of medicine will be frequency. Here we are really tapping into the quantum. People are really leveling up and realizing that, for them to achieve their bigger goals in life, we can do that with frequency. We really can. When we're tapped in, we need to move out of our heads and really into our bodies. And, it's a whole person, that's what they call it, holistic. It's a whole person effort. And so, I feel like I'm just like,
this is the best. No, this is amazing. I could just listen to you talk all day, really. I love it. And I love how passionate you are. I'm very similar about my work as well. So there's a few directions I want to take this. Firstly, I think it would be more strategic to ask you, like, for the listeners who want to kind of like get a good idea of what actually goes on when they do this sound and the frequency medicine. Like, what's like the step-by-step process that is then involved, and how does this specifically then, like by listening to sound, benefit them and help them? So, for example, how when I went to Croatia with Brie, how everyone got sick, including me, but Brie was listening to her frequencies and she didn't get sick. So I'd love to hear in more detail the step-by-step process that is involved in, like, firstly, okay, needing help, and then what you get, obviously, in regards to the emotions and the body. And I'd love for you to tell people about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a really wide range of different clients coming to me, people that are really struggling with significant health problems, for instance, through to, entrepreneurs and really successful business people who are actually really just looking to level up their life, know that, they do live quite it takes a lot out of you energetically to be successful in life, and that the energy that we put out, we need to make sure that we're having some significant self-care in return. So basically, when people come to me, I like to do a full health assessment where I can just see, we can identify then any areas that in their life that they're struggling with at the moment. So we can start, when we know better, we do better. So we like to admit, like, where are some areas where I'm feeling like I need to change some things. Then we start looking at we'll do your profile and the bioresonance, and we'll do the voice recording, and we'll create these harmonics, which we'll get to listen to, morning and night is a recommendation. And as you start to do that, some people actually can feel it in their body. I've worked also with vaccine injured people with a lot of neuropathy, tinnitus, like all kinds of different neurological side effects. And listening to the harmonics, they can actually feel pins and needles and different sensations in their body as the frequencies are helping to bring those short-circuited pieces back into alignment, back into the channel, so that the channel is clear and the channel is working the way that it should. Yeah. And then our bodies can really be in a healing space, you know.
When I first listened to the frequencies that you sent me for like what I was experiencing at that point, when I sent you, just like, guys, I just sent Debbie like a 30-second voice note and she comes back with all this data. I'm like, oh my gosh, like people need to know about this stuff, because, you know, everyone's individual, and sometimes like by sharing this, it might really help someone, which is really cool. And for me, as soon as I played those frequencies, I was like, my whole body was like, oh my God, this just feels so nice to listen to.
Yeah. It really, it's a nourishment. You can actually feel that it's doing something at a cellular level. And then when we get the reports, obviously, we get to see the correlating emotional state of, you know, what emotions are showing up. So it'll show the top 3 emotions that are out of balance and the one emotion that is the most trapped, or, you know, to say it's like really deep down in the subconscious. And I've had so many of my clients start crying every time they listen to their harmonics or they read the report, because they're so overwhelmed with the truth. Like when you start to read it on paper and you're like, oh my God, that's me. Like, that's actually, how does it know that? How does it know that I'm feeling that way?
Yeah. I'm just curious as well, like, and I'm sure the listeners are too, with emotions being trapped in the body. Like I talk about this a lot in my podcast. I haven't really done a full in-depth episode on this, which I might in the future, but just from your perspective, like how does an emotion get like physically trapped in your body? How does that happen?
Because emotions have a frequency. So they all have, and then our organs all have a frequency. And what ends up happening is that if that low vibration frequency, that low vibration emotion gets, you know, it will get stored in our body. If we don't, like, say, for instance, with women, we tend to store a lot in our womb. So we have a lot of, then we end up manifesting a whole lot of gynae issues and, you know, women's health problems. And it just gets, you know, exacerbated. And if you start to really look back at the thing with bioresonance, is it's always looking at the cause, then the cause of the cause, and then the cause of the cause of the cause. And that generally is always goes back to something. It can even be on our DNA. It can be ancestral. We can be passing through, like sometimes people read their reports and go, this is saying that I've got syphilis, and I've never had syphilis. When you start to understand syphilis, and even back in the day, and all of our ancestors and what that meant for them and how it would be held on the DNA strands and come through and start to, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the actual disease, but the frequency of it starts to wreak havoc on our normal frequencies of our other systems and organs specifically. Wow. And so it's really important to just help release those things. Like a lot of people that have unresolved grief, you know, bitterness, anger, they have a lot of liver issues. You know, Louise L. Hay was a beautiful soul who did a lot of work. She was one of the pioneers of the, like, you can heal your life, and about how our stored emotions and our trapped emotions start to impact our physical body. And the beautiful thing about the bioresonance is that when it creates this report, it actually shows you where in the body these emotions are. Not only does it identify the emotion, it then gives you a breakdown of where in your body is that emotion creating some havoc and chaos. And so, and then it can give you some ideas of and some recommendations of things that you can bring into. It might be some chiropractic support. It might be that you need more trace minerals. It might be, you know, we start to look at all, it might be that you need to do some yoga or meditation, or there are other things that we can also bring in. And, you know, when you're working with people and you really know their story and, you know, where they're coming from in their life, you can start to really implement, personalize these things to really help people create massive change, like fast tracks that level of change. Some people we spend a lifetime. Life is a journey of, you know, evolution, and we're all trying to be better. You know, we want to be the best versions of ourselves. But when we can use tools that can fast track that process, you know, I know that you're a real advocate for meditation too, and the power, and that's all about frequency as well. And it's about, you know, quieting our mind and allowing ourselves to reset. and to receive messages and to receive that guidance and to really trust your intuition. When our channel's clear, when our body is in balance, we fast tracks us. There's no confusion. It's the clarity is just phenomenal. We get to actually really start to achieve some massive things in our life, and we have way less symptoms, physical symptoms.
So I've spoken about this multiple times in regards to being a trusting of your intuition and taking the action when it does come to you firsthand. But obviously, like your journey has been as well, in those moments, it can be really scary letting go of like who you once were, the old expectations that come along with that, and then leaping into this path that you're being intuitively guided to. It takes a lot of courage. And so, Debbie, I'm curious to know, in regards to that situation for you, and keeping in mind that there might be those that are listening going through a similar thing emotionally, what would be your advice to them, those people out there that are experiencing that leap or just before they leap?
Courage. It's such a powerful word. Well, for me, one of my most courageous moments was when I stood down from my 30-year nursing career, and I felt I just knew because I knew that I had to actually speak out about what I was seeing in the hospital setting. I knew that this was the closing of a chapter of the last 30 years that door was about to close. I was probably going to get hated on, persecuted, potentially prosecuted, all the things for speaking out. But I literally just followed my intuition 100% and trusted. I think in those moments is when we really get to trust and surrender like we've never done before, knowing that when you do take that step, you're going to fly. It is so fucking scary. Like, it's so scary. But like literally
feelings, like, what is everyone going to think of me? Like, that obviously comes up too. And you know, up to that point, we're probably living our whole life trying to fit in with everybody else. So then to speak your truth and be so left field of what everyone else is saying, it's like, holy shit, like I'm just letting go of everything that I've worked so hard to get, which is all these connections with people. But it's almost like your soul knows what's for you, and that on the other side of this leap of faith and this courage is so much love and abundance that you could never have imagined at the level that you were at before you took the action.
So true. I remember for the 2 days prior to, like, I was due to be at this big rally, and there was literally 15,000 people there, and I'm like, they're saying, oh, we need you on stage, you know, you've got about 7 minutes. And I was like, oh my God. And I sat down, you know, in the days prior, writing bullet point notes, thinking, I don't even think I'm going to be able to sort my head out to read off this thing. But and my heart rate was going at about 140 clicks, you know, for like 2 days straight. I was so nervous. I just thought, oh my God, what am I doing? But in all of that fear, I knew underneath, if I really, because the fear part was really just all in my head. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm not going to die. What's the worst that can happen if I go and do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then I literally was getting up the steps. There was just like thousands of people, and I was walking up the steps, and the organizer came over to me and go, look, we're really running short on time. I think you're only going to get like 2 or 3 minutes. And I thought, well, there goes that. I'm just going to, and I literally said in that moment, whatever I am meant to say today, I'm a vessel for whatever it is that I'm meant to say. Like, let my words touch the hearts of the people who are meant to hear my message today, whatever that is. And I literally, in that moment of trust and surrender, was channeling what needed to be said, and that I've got goosebumps. But like, I was, and when I stood off, and everyone was like crying and clapping, and I shared my heart and I shared my truth. And I remember my parting word was like, don't worry about losing your job, worry about losing your life. And I was like, where did that even come from? Like, you know, people were literally crying and hugging me when I got down off the stage. And that's when it was the moment when I knew that, you know, there is courage under fire, but everything always works out in the end. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end. You know, we really do we get to do all of the things But the only person that can do it is us. But when we really are tapped in and trust and know that we are being guided and protected in this life, it does make it a whole lot easier. It's not easy, but it's really beautiful. I now can look back with hindsight and go, oh my God, I feel like I've been really guided in my life in so many ways, in so many situations that I could share where I know that people have gone, I don't know how you did that. And I know now that I was constantly trusting.
Yeah.
What's the next best step that I need to do? And had I not done that, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't be sharing my heart, my purpose, a solution for humanity. I'm here. My whole mission is to help humanity heal. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And if I hadn't taken that leap, if I hadn't done that, and then it closed a chapter that should have been closed, if I'm really honest, a long time ago. I'm sure that we can all think of things that we've been in relationships that we should have ended, friendships that we keep watering that are totally dead, toxic environments, jobs we don't love, all kinds of things that we do in our life that we kind of just keep on doing. We wonder why we're actually not feeling fulfilled and happy and light and loving life. It's because we're bogging ourselves down with stuff when we just need that courage, take that next best step we get to pivot at any time. You get to pivot in life. You get to choose your own path. And so nothing can really go wrong. Everything is perfect.
Yeah, that's my belief
it's
system.
Leads you to the next step. Even if that thing doesn't end up being the thing, it's the next best step to lead you to the thing that could be the thing.
Yes, I love this perspective so much, because I think the element of trust that can hold a lot of people back is but if we're so guided and if everything is so perfect, why do these so-called bad things happen? And it's well, I love what you said about if it's not working out, it's not the end. And I believe that there's nothing that actually happens to us, really. It's all just happening for us. So those moments that do cause a lot of either depression or grief or sadness, whether you're going through a loss or a breakup or something awful that has happened to you. In those moments, that is where we birth this courage and strength within us that we never really knew that we had. And that, I believe, is the initiation process that we all must experience at some level, degree, to then go on and really fulfill what we're actually here to do.
100%. What's your truth?
What's your truth, guys? Listening, what's your truth?
What is your truth? And this comes back to frequency again. If when you think about the thing, whatever it is, maybe it's a relationship you're in, maybe it's when you think about something that you would really if nothing was stopping you and you had a clear path and you got to that thing, how would you feel in your body? Feel what that feels like. That frequency is so much when we think about God or spirit being the highest frequency. And, as we come down, we've got love, and we go all the way down to fear is one of the lowest ones. And so when we're feeling off, our frequencies are off. We're actually on a hissing, not quite tuned in radio station. And then we wonder why we're just nothing's really lining up. Everything feels like, oh, this is always happening to me. We start to create stories around it, why does this always happen to me? But it's not about that. We actually get to take a step in the direction of where we get to align ourselves to whatever it is, the thing that we're supposed to be doing. And the feeling that you'll get when you do that, it's indescribable. When you're living a life on purpose, and your frequencies are all in alignment, and you're working at it every day. It's not a one-time, one solution, one size fits all approach, but it's really learning about how we're energetic beings and how the things in our external environment, in our relationships, and the food we eat, and all of the things contribute to either, ease and wellness or dis-ease and chaos. And so that's really it. Yeah.
Debbie, I want to know, I've mentioned this a few times, but I think sometimes it's nice to hear the same message from other people as well. It's because sometimes what would land for someone else might not for another, and just you need to hear it from a different person. So what I would love to hear, just like briefly, maybe some examples of like people that you've worked with and what they've achieved through these like sound medicine and healings from you. And then also like your 3 biggest tips to elevating your energy and your frequency.
Okay. I've got beautiful testimonies from all different clients. I've got everything from one of my beautiful friends who has a boy who's on the autism spectrum, and he has been really struggling with integrating into the school environment, into the learning environment. Lots of behavioral stuff, really challenging and is very difficult to navigate. And we got his voice recording, created the harmonics. He calls it his magic music. He's only 7. And within 2 weeks of him listening to his harmonics, and his mum actually, we organised to send him frequencies through the day while he's at school. He got Student of the Week award.
That's so cool.
First time ever, which is was just like his mum was crying to me because it was just a huge breakthrough for this child who's now in a position to be more integrative and thriving, and he can feel the difference. He asks for his music when he's not feeling, when he's, feeling off, which is incredible. I've also got beautiful testimonies from I've got one actually just from the other night. So here we are at dinner. We're having this beautiful 5-course French cuisine meal, and with our friend who's a French chef. Well, one of the courses comes out, it's got blue cheese in it. My partner is allergic to blue cheese. And I said, babe, I don't think that's a good idea. And he's like, I'll be fine. I'm like, you used to have to use an EpiPen for that. Like, you're actually allergic. He goes, I'll be fine. Anyway, within 10 minutes of eating it, he started to get a rash. It was all traveling up his neck. He was getting that little bit of a scratchy throat. So I immediately hooked into my bioresonance software and started running the allopathic adrenaline and allergic reaction frequency playlists to him. And within 20 minutes, all of his symptoms had gone.
Whoa! I did goosebumps. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
And there's just so many times when even with, headaches and people, pain, lots of healing, lots of beautiful healing, like people that have injuries that have really needed frequency to help, bring things back into alignment. We can see on the reports exactly where the tendons, bones, nerves, lymphatics. We can see where the blockages are.
It is. Yeah. Debbie took me through like what was on my scan, and I can't remember off the top of my head like what my body one was saying. I don't really have many injuries, but like definitely like you have a tight neck every now and then, and it definitely all showed up on my scans, even just like things that I not intolerant or allergic to, but like I kind of avoid eating just because like I don't really like my body doesn't like it. They come up on my scans as well. So yeah, really cool. If you definitely get a chance to do a scan with Debbie, it's like literally a 30-second voice memo, and she'll come back with this giant report of all the things. It's absolutely brilliant. So Debbie, what are the 3 tips you would give to someone to elevate their frequency, just briefly?
Okay. Well, obviously I use bioresonance and the harmonics because that is a given. This is what I do. I embody what I do. But if you don't have access to that, things that you can do to raise your vibration are one of the things that I really am an advocate for is grounding in nature. If you can get into nature, bare feet on the ground, on the earth, like I live like really close to the beach, so I can get onto the sand and the negative ions from this, from the ocean, and help to just reset your body. And like really, that's why we say, when you go to the beach, you always say, oh God, it feels so good.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It is actually raising your vibration. So doing that is like getting into nature, I find is a really good way to raise your vibration. My other thing that I really am an advocate for is movement in some description. For me, it's like dancing, put the music on, create a vibe, to just really lift your vibration, your energy. And, sing a really good way to clear. A lot of people have, especially over the last few years, a lot of issues around their throat and throat chakra and like throat issues because they've not been speaking their truth. So they feel like they've not been able to. There's been a lot of conflict among families and just, dynamics have been going on. A lot of people have been shut down. So, a great way to raise that and clear that channel is to sing or chanting, and like even in a meditation, and just make sounds coming from wherever you're intuitively feeling it. If it's a low tone, just go with the low tone. If it's something that you feel that needs to be a higher tone, release that, and that will actually help to really clear that channel. And for me, another thing that really, like, find things that bring you joy. Like, really, one of the things that really helps to raise your vibration is, it's finding things that bring you joy. So if things are bringing you down, or you're feeling bogged down with work or bogged down with, go and do something that you find that's fun.
Yes.
Or, even just find something like, go and watch a YouTube clip or something where it makes you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Something that actually makes you laugh, a comedy or just anything, sometimes reels even, or whatever you're into, like just laughing is, or go and I think that one of the things that we, like when they looked at all the studies around the blue zones around the world, and they looked at how people live happier, longer lives, they looked at, the number one thing was connection. And so I've really truly believed that energetically, when something that really raises our vibration is to find your people.
Yeah.
Find your people, find your tribe, and, really, yeah.
I love that so
be
much.
With them.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with everything that you've said. And to wrap up for today, where can my listeners find you if they want to learn more about bioresidency and what you do for your work?
Well, I have a website, which is debbiejaneharris.com. Nice and simple. This is my name. I'm also on Instagram, Debbie Jane Harris, and on Facebook as well. And I have an opportunity I've got an appointment booking system there, even if you just want to book in for a 20-minute free chat with me to see, where we can go. And I'd love to run a scan for you, and we can talk about that and how it all works if you've got any more questions. And yeah, I love people just to feel that they can reach out and connect.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, definitely let me know, or Debbie know, like, that you heard about her from this podcast. That's always helpful. And Debbie, I have one last question for you. Yes. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you were to channel through one piece of advice or a message that you believe the listeners need to hear right now, and it doesn't have to relate to what we've spoken about, if it doesn't need to, what would that piece of advice be? What do they need to hear?
Walk your own path. Stay on your own path and stay true to yourself. Yeah, stay true. Don't let the distractions, other people's opinions, just don't get distracted, because you intuitively know, trust yourself, because you actually have all the answers inside of you. We just get the noise, stops us from hearing it. But black out the noise, focus in on yourself, on your intuition, do your meditation practices, be in the moment and really trust yourself and know that your path is your own. You get to do it all.
That is so beautiful. I love this so much. Thank you for sharing, Debbie. You're amazing. And it's been a pleasure having you on my show today.
Thank you so much. I want to give actually everybody who mentions you that they came through this podcast, I'll give you a discount on your bioresonance therapy, which will be really exciting. So that I want everyone to experience it, because
100%. So if you heard that, guys, everyone that mentions my name to Debbie can get a little cheeky discount with the bioresonancy reading. So I would highly recommend jumping on that just to experience it. Like, for me, I really had an amazing experience. So yeah, I would definitely go check that out. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.